What is up, guys? It's Jimbo here and welcome back to another Outriders video. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the endgame after all the information that we have had leading up to the armor set stuff and also the legendary weapons, and it kind of gives a little bit more context on the loot that we will be getting in the game. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. After finishing the 40-hour story campaign in Outriders, you may be thinking to yourself, what do I do? What's next? Where am I going to go with all the power that I have accumulated over the story campaign? Well, in Outriders, there's a few things that you can do after the story has finished, most notably expeditions. Expeditions are going to be the main endgame activity that players are going to interact with through the end part of Outriders. And that starts with a new camp and a base of operations. Most notably, in the base of operations, you'll have a map showing off the expeditions and what path you will be following. And it's important to note that this map and the expeditions are going to avoid recycling areas from the campaign. Using this map is going to guide you through new and various locations around the world of Enoch. There's going to be a variety of mechanics, a variety of storylines, and also a variety of location styles. Ruinous areas, forests, chemical plants, just to name a few, and I really like the look of what they are doing. I personally like the environments of the expeditions because it will pose a mix of nice layouts, and that will also challenge the player, and hopefully they won't be too repetitive, but will be fun nonetheless. Challenge tiers are linked to expeditions, and challenge tiers are going to give the ability for players to chase beating expeditions and reward you for completing the expeditions. The faster that you complete said expeditions, the quicker and the faster you complete them via the time, the more loot that you are going to get, and you will get higher loot for the quicker that you beat it, the higher the difficulty that you are on. So it incentivizes really maximizing your build and your teamwork with your teammates, and also with your own specific build to beat the higher tiers. Completing tiers will reward you not only with gear, but also with challenge tiers. The higher amount of challenge tiers you have enabled will allow you to explore new areas of Enoch. So you start at level 1 and you work your way up to a total of tier 15. Now, I don't know whether you're going to be able to put tier 15 on other areas, but the higher the tiers, the higher the difficulty and the higher the rarity of the loot, or the higher drop rates of the loot that you're going to be looking for. When you get to tier 15, this will unlock the Eye of the Storm final expedition, which is said to be the most challenging. And another point is they are designed to be difficult. This isn't supposed to be a easy to access mode. You need to really boil down your build, nailing what you are going to be doing in a specific role with your teammates, and then also trying to work to kill the enemies, kill the bosses, whatever that may be that are involved in the expeditions as well. And that is another thing that adds to the replayability of the game, and I really enjoy it. Adding to all this, your loot level. In Outriders, your max level is level 30 after the story, but the level of loot you can earn up to in expeditions is level 50. So you have to do the expeditions in order to reach level 50, and it scales as you go up, so you won't just jump all the way up to level 50 straight away. You will slowly start making your way up the challenge tiers and slowly start rounding out your characters. And here's the other thing that is really awesome about this is that when you are suffering at a higher difficulty, you can drop it down, work on your build a little bit more, and then get back in at those higher tiers and then hopefully beat them. Expeditions, the enemies in the expeditions won't drop loot. They will drop loot at the end of the activity. Now, I don't know whether they're going to penalize us for not completing the activity correctly, but hopefully it has a good system where that if you do die and you're not able to do it, you do get some form of loot in the end. The challenge tiers are a great take on an endgame activity from Outriders. We've seen the endgame in most looter shooters fall flat in a lot of games, and it's not really focused on extending the life cycle of the game after launch, and the endgame can do that. Combine that with 4 character classes and also build crafting. I'm really hoping that I can hone in on specialized builds and sink a lot of hours into different specializations, really hone in on those build crafting elements, and that is something that we need to touch on right now when we talk about build crafting, armor, and modding and crafting elements in Outriders. Mods are a big part of Outriders, and they're going to be key to what you spend most of the time on in the game. Mods are a passive skill and any piece of gear. This could be a myriad of things like fire rate, increased damage from a skill, adding certain status effects like bleed, toxic, freeze, static, or slow. There's a variety of different passive skills that this will give you. Modding weapons will also give the ability to experience other class skills to a certain degree. For example, you could get a slowing ability or a slowing mod on your weapons that is something similar to the Trickster. You could also get something that adds an explosion effect similar to the Pyromancer, and much more. Adding to this, you also have skill mods. Skill mods are going to be class specific, and the only class that can access them is the ones that they come on. So if you get a class specific mod for Pyromancer, it can only be used on that character. For example, we see it on the Death Proof set, which is specific to the Boulder Dash, and we also see it on the Reforged set for the Thermal Bomb for the Pyromancer. These skill mods can only be applied to the armor that you have on those characters, but it definitely separates them and doesn't just make all of the mods generalized. But general mods are going to be able to be used across all weapons and armor and used by all characters, so that is something to take into account. Mods are also separated into 3 tiers. Tier 1 is more general mods that you'll find on lower rarities of gear, and most likely going to be easier to find. Tier 2 will be more mods that can be found on higher rarities of gear and sometimes can spawn with 2 mods. They'll be a little bit better than Tier 1 mods. And Tier 3 mods are dedicated mods that spawn on legendary gear, and you have to find that legendary piece of gear in order to use it. And the way that you use these mods is by dismantling legendaries that you have or that you don't really need to use anymore. For example, if you have one weapon that has a shock effect on it that's a legendary ability, you can use that as an example that is seen in the video and put it onto a frost weapon, so you get frost and shock or static at the same time. Mods can only be found by dismantling gear, and in order to get the mods that you're after, you're going to have to sacrifice certain things, and only one slot of the piece of gear can be changed. So there's going to be 2 slots on each piece of gear. There's only one of them you can change, so you need to choose wisely. This is a fantastic system because it will create a bunch of combinations of different weapon types, different status effects from those weapon types, factoring in the skill mods as well. There's going to be a lot of build crafting in this game, and I personally can't wait to spend time looking at the screen to find the best possible outcomes for different classes. And there's going to be over 350 mods in the game, so you need to get out and start hunting. A few crafting extras though. So to round up this, improving a rarity of a piece of gear will increase its general statistics on the gear, so armor and the firepower of your weapons. You can raise the individual attributes on a piece of gear, which is the attributes on any given weapon. So that's like fire rate, or it could be leech life percentage, whatever that may be. Weapons also can have a variant that can be swapped to give them different statistics as well. For example, range boost, accuracy, stability, making them a little bit more controllable in your hands. So it could be like a sharpshooter or an up close and personal. And lastly, you can level a piece of gear if you have found something you liked earlier on in the game, and you can bring it forward into the current play area. All of this will obviously cost materials, so you need to pick and choose. It's not going to be that easy to just upgrade everything that you want. What this does mean is that if you find a specific legendary early on in the game and you want to keep hold of it, you can bring that forward into the end game at a later date. My overall opinion is these systems are going to have a ton of potential for build ideas, various play styles. Also, handing the player the choice on the way that they play the game is fantastic. There may be certain meta things, but with the right mind and the right resources, players will be able to have countless different combinations, and that's just on one character. Repeating all these steps above and adding in 4 different classes is going to add an exponential amount of different builds that you could do on any one of the classes, and it's something to be excited about. So let's hope that the end game content in Outriders is something to sink our teeth into. But that's all I have to talk about in today's deep dive. Thank you very much for supporting the channel over the last few weeks. We've got more Outriders content to come in between Destiny stuff. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit a like on the video, comment in the comment section down below, subscribe if you're new, turn on the notification bell to be notified when I bring out more content. And as always, this has been Jimbo, and I will see you guys next time.